how beautiful this has rooted. 2 days ago I was given a handful of crepe myrtle cuttings to grow out as a bonsai. Now I had a very long drive home, so I just popped them in this plastic baggie, and as soon as I got home last night I just dunked them in a container of water. Now I need to start growing them as a cutting, and what I've done already before I went home, I removed all the lower leaves and I removed the growing tips here from these branches. So all that I'm left with here are branches that are semi-mature. They're not completely woody. This is all this year's growth. I've removed the soft herbaceous tip, and now these are ready to go into a pot. What I'm going to do, I'm going to clip off the ends so I have a fresh cut, dip that in rooting hormone, and then plant it up in a small pot topped up with vermiculite. This for me is a component, and I've been asked, is it magical? Well, it is not magical, but it works really well for growing herbaceous cuttings. Now, when I say herbaceous, of course, it is good to realize these are not completely fresh. They have hardened a little bit, so I can bend them a little bit without them snapping. So they are older than the weakest branches. They need to start to mature a little bit. And when is it enough? So the process is really simple, right? I have this pot with a little bit of normal substrate. I'm going to fill it up with fine-grained substrate first. So I've added this very fine siftings. This is mostly pumice. And now I'm just adding the vermiculite on top. A very old tray with old leftover bits of rooting hormone should not be a problem. This is, however, really starting to fall apart now, the rooting hormone. I need to get some new. And then I just clip the end. There's a bud here. I'm just going to clip it right below the bud. Dip it in. And then just leave it sit for a little bit while I do all of these. And then I'm just going to plant them up. Now what you can tell is that these leaves are actually quite big. So what you can do to reduce evaporation and increase success is just cut off half of the leaves. This will leave you with a cutting like this. This is pretty much ideal size wise, typically for rooting cuttings. Then you just plop them into the substrate. I actually should water it first because then it's more stable. And you just do that for all of them. And let's see, this is the typical way that I take cuttings. It should work also for these crepe myrtles. Now, as I don't have a very good space to put them that is protected from drying out, I'm going to plop them into a plastic baggie that will create sort of a greenhouse environment, very high humidity. Now, I don't know whether it works with these, but typically you don't need to stick cuttings the moment that you grab them from a plant. It is better to do it straight away, but if you can't, then just make sure that they can never dry out. And that's why I kept them in a plastic baggie for transport. And at home I popped them into a big container of water, almost submerging them completely, so that these have never dried out at all during the part of transport. Now this is a very herbaceous part that I have here. You can see that the leaves have not fully extended. They are not as nice and waxy as, for instance, if you compare to this. This is a mature leaves. These are still very young. This can very easily start rotting. I'm still going to pop it in because I don't have experience with this species, and who knows, for this species it might be that the herbaceous ones grow more easily. Always take more cuttings than you think you'll need, because you will lose part of these cuttings in 6 weeks. And if we look at these, what I can see, and you can't, but slowly you can as well, these are really looking good. There are a few leaves that have fallen off, and I'll collect these and I'll remove those because those are a source of fungal infections. But besides that, most of them are doing well. There's one dead here, there's another one dead there. As said, I'm just removing everything that is dead, but quite a few of them are still alive. Now it is also time to slowly start thinking about opening up the baggie a little bit, so that I can get air circulation going. And not too much, just the top. It is still in semi-shade, because I really don't want to risk these cooking. Just an early morning hour of sun is what they're getting. I'm actually tempted to start checking for roots. I don't see anything here yet, but I see a few buds are swelling. So I might be in for good success this time. But I'm just going to have to be patient. Another 2, 3, 4 weeks, and when I see growth, that is also when I think that I have roots. And that's when I really want the bag open completely. And for now I'm just lifting it and just leaving it like this, right? That way it can ventilate a little bit, it starts to get a little bit drier. It also means that once a week I water it a little bit, but besides that, not much more to do than wait. And you know, I'm just like anybody else. I want to know whether this has rooted. So we are now another week down the road. The weather has improved significantly. It is nice and warm, and actually we're headed into the 30 Celsius. And what you can tell with these cutting is there's buds opening up here on the side of this one, here in the top, there on the side. These must have rooted. And I'm just going to take them out of this pot and hope that they have roots. And then I'm going to pot them up individually, put them in the shed for a couple of days, but using the warm weather to get these to root into nice substrate. So here goes. Always an exciting yet scary moment. Oh, look at that. Yes, there are plenty of roots. This is of course also why it is good to at some point check, because if there's roots you don't want to start these to grow together, right? Look at that. How beautiful this has rooted. Well, let's get some pots and let's get these potted up. I don't even want to take them apart now because the roots are so beautiful. Look at that. Just perfect. Really not doing anything to disturb these because they are quite difficult to get here. I'm not wanting to take any risks. Shouldn't have waited much longer. Look at how long these roots are already. Gently does it, right? Don't want to break these roots. And look at that. Even this tiny one has created massive roots. Really cool. Well, that's 13 successful cuttings, 12 pots. I have absolute confidence in pretty much all of these rooting into the pot. So therefore I'm just going to say stop! Last week of July, and I just thought that before signing off and finalizing the video I'd show you. Look at how these are growing. This is really doing well. All of these have survived, also the transplant. Fertilizing starts now, and I'm just going to let them grow for the season. But the extension growth on these, that's insane how well these do. Now for some reason people always want to know whether my cuttings survive into the next year. So here we are in the spring. This is now a year ago that I rooted these cuttings roughly, and you can see they're all nice and waking up, although some seem to have changed from species. These are elms, of course. I just have trays and I just mix and match. Anyway, these are now waking up and I can actually decide that I would like to wire them out a little bit. Don't have to, but at this stage, of course, you can. Doing it now means, of course, that you can make fairly tight bends, but keep in mind these are young rooted twigs and therefore they might not be all that strong. They might snap. You can lose a few if you do it at this age. I in general prefer to do it young and get some very low tight bends in there, because you're never going to be able to do that again. Alternatively, I can just cut it back in a few months all the way down to the roots and get a low bud to pop. So I'll just wire out 1, 2, 3 of these. I push the wire into the soil a little bit so that it has a little bit of hold. And then it's a matter of just gently trying to not squeeze any of the buds. Wire it out, holding the cutting, particularly at the root base, and then gently working your way up. And then as for shape, yeah, that is really just your personal preference, right? I have a very low bud here, which is really nice. And I try to get buds on outsides of bends. That always looks better. But don't spend too much time on it. Just put a few pops and bips. Then here I have one with a very low bud. But I'm going to let this grow first and then cut it later, so it gets a bit of an angle. This will come up by itself, that's good. This, I think it is different species. I think this is one of my khaki cuttings, to be honest. But it doesn't matter exactly what it is. It is a young cutting. And basically all my young cuttings get the similar treatment if I decide that I want shape. I do this when they are young. And I'm going to just leave a few alone. And a few I go and wire. That way I have variety in my collection. Anyway, I think that's it for this video. I might do a video on growing these on, but this video was just about propagating them. And as you can tell, these are doing quite well. Propagating. From cutting, quite easy. This was Jelle, growing bonsai, and see you next time.